You're watching News Central now on News Central Television. My name is Mazino. The trending stories this hour. Troops of the Nigerian Army eliminate 9 terrorists, seize weapons in Kaduna. As Mpox cases rise, Nigeria government to begin vaccination on October 8th. 9 accused persons in DR Congo's attempted coup leads not guilty. Details shortly. News Central now at this hour begins with security matters. The Nigerian Army has reported the elimination of several terrorists during an operation in Kampani Doka and Rifigoro areas of Birnin Gwari local government in Kaduna State. According to a statement on the Army's social media, troops encountered strong resistance from terrorists but subdued them with superior firepower, neutralizing 7 of the criminals. Now, troops recovered 3 AK-47 rifles, 8 magazines, 120 rounds of ammunition, motorcycles, communication devices, and other items. The operation extended to Gayam village, where a notorious insurgent leader was neutralized, and additional weapons, including a PKT machine gun, were seized. The public is urged to continue supporting security forces in their efforts to maintain peace and security. Gunmen suspected to be Boko Haram terrorists have invaded Faudiya Islamic Boarding School in Yobe State, killing 3 students and injuring 1. The Islamic school, which belongs to the proscribed Muslim Brotherhood movement Shiites, is located in Gayam local government area of the state. Muhammad Salah, Ahmed, Abdurrahman and Abdullahi Adamu were said to have been killed, while Sani Haruna, who was injured and is currently receiving medical treatment. Spokesman of the Nigeria Police Force in the state, DSP Dungus Abdul Karim, who confirmed the incident, revealed that the attackers arrived at the school on motorcycles armed with AK-47 rifles around 4 on Friday, shooting sporadically. Now, let's also tell you that the International Committee of the Red Cross, ICRC, reports that over 24,000 people are missing in Nigeria, with the majority of cases stemming from the conflict in the northeast. Speaking at an event in Maiduguri to mark the World Day of Disappeared Persons, Lillian Dube, head of the ICRC's sub-delegation office, revealed that 24,025 people have been registered as missing in collaboration with the Nigerian Red Cross Society. This number, Dube noted, likely represents only a fraction of the actual total, with more than half of these cases involving children. So far, 492 cases have been resolved, and 1,364 families have received news clarifying the fate of their missing loved ones. The ICRC is currently monitoring 618 separated children who are still searching for their relatives. Away from security matters now, the Nigeria police have summoned President of the Nigeria Labour Congress, Ajaero, and General Secretary Ima Ugboaja to appear at Force headquarters on September 5, 2024. This new summons comes less than 24 hours after Ajaero complied with a previous invitation concerning allegations of criminal conspiracy, terrorism financing, treasonable felony, subversion, and cybercrime. This time, Ajaero and Ugboaja are being asked to address allegations of criminal intimidation, conduct likely to breach public peace, and malicious damage to property. They've been invited by the Force Intelligence Department of the Nigeria Police Force. Now, speakers at a town hall in Nigeria's capital, Abuja, organized by News Central in partnership with TAP Initiative, have raised concerns about the Nigerian government's response to citizens' agitations for better governance. The event was the latest in the town hall series by News Central Television, discussed the nationwide End Bad Governance protest, which held across the country and marked by violence and brutal response by security personnel in some parts of the country. The participants, including human rights activists, lawyers, youth leaders, and journalists, criticized the utter disregard for the yearnings of Nigerians, which include improved governance, economic reforms, and government accountability. News Central correspondent Leko Anabanjo monitored the event and filed in this report.
The first thing they did was to abduct someone who is very close to me.
The venue is the Musa Arodwa Conference Center in Abuja, and the hall is packed with Nigerians from all walks of life and thousands of others connecting virtually for a town hall tagged Speak Up Nigeria, addressing the nationwide protests. It comes against the background of the recent End Bad Governance protests that hit major states and cities in Nigeria to x-ray the events that played out during the demonstrations and chart a way forward.
Over 436 of my members have been arrested just because they came out to express their pains to the federal government.
Several persons, including Michael Lenin, Bidum, and several other persons, hundreds of them, they are in prison.
You cannot be a citizen in a space that is ungoverned by law, where the law does not rule. You cannot have a democracy. Where the law does not rule, you cannot have a government strictly so called. Nigeria is ruled by the administration of impunity.
By protest, citizens alter an agenda of government that does not respond to the role that government has to improve the quality of life of citizens.
For them, the citizens' action was merely against the policies of governments that have resulted in rising inflation, lack of access to basic necessities, and deteriorating living conditions.
Because of that singular act of Bola Ahmed Tinubu of saying subsidy is gone, one day we went to bed when the fuel was 165, and we woke up and it was 617. And Nigerians went to bed. I can't believe it because I have lived through protests.
Today, if you earn 30,000 naira, it would not be enough for public transportation. Now, if you go to the market, I go to the market, with 30,000 naira, literally you can't find what you buy.
Hunger does not know age, it doesn't know tribe, it doesn't know nationality.
The discussions also delve into the severe socio-economic disparities that have plagued the country, particularly in the northern region.
We're talking about 12 million people. Do you know what that means? Now you say there were protests and some of them became violent. If you don't invest in the future of your country, what you do is it will burn.
That civilization...
The need for a structured and respectful dialogue between the government and the protesters is then emphasized as a more effective means of addressing grievances.
We are all back there now, a moment of epiphany and a total conscious realization that if we do not act together now, we are going to perish either individually or collectively.
I believe that the people have a right to be heard under any circumstance and in all situations. Everybody should have a voice. Everybody should be heard.
Despite the frustration expressed, there is a clear call for unity of purpose and that any action aimed at expression of public outrage against government policies must be peaceful.
Staying with the town hall event in Abuja, rights activist and national secretary of the Nigeria Union of Journalists (NUJ), Achike Chude, and News Central correspondent Ben Akede, who moderated the dialogue, had expressed deep concerns over the growing victimization of journalists in Nigeria. They maintain that the harassment and intimidation of journalists in the country is often carried out with impunity by both state and non-state actors.
On the 31st of July, News Central Television's crew was carrying out a live broadcast at around the Lekki toll gate, and we were accosted by some police officers, and live on camera they stopped our programming. Now, while we continued our live broadcast, you also may have seen that video where myself and some other members of my team were physically harassed by thugs from that Ojota area. One had a shovel, some had a green pipe, and other sticks that they were armed with. If I see green pipes now, I have PTSD. Because I was hit on the back with one of those pipes.
If going by reports, journalists in Nigeria are among the most challenged the world over. And the intimidation and the harassment of the media, of journalists, stopping them and preventing them from practicing their profession,
is among the highest in the continent. So you write anything that is critical of a governor, a civilian governor for that matter, the next thing is that you are picked up and you are locked up somewhere. So everybody has gotten into the act of intimidating journalists and the media. And that absolutely is unacceptable, and we have made it very clear to them that we no longer tolerate that situation where people can no longer express their opinion. It's a fundamental right.
Away from that, landowners in Nuwalege, Abuja, who were displaced by a recent government demolition, are calling for compensation. More than 200 families from Nuwalege, a rural community along the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport Road, Abuja, have been left homeless following the demolition of their homes to facilitate an expansion of the presidential air fleet. The displaced families have been forced to seek refuge in nearby communities. The affected individuals say they have not yet received compensation from the Nielsen Wike-led Federal Capital Territory Administration, the Nigerian Air Force, or the Ministry of Aviation. The demolition carried out by the Federal Capital Development Authority, at the request of the Nigerian Air Force, has left many families in limbo. Now you're watching News Central now. Time for a short break, and when the news returns, Taraba State Governor Abu Kefas assures workers that work is in progress for the implementation of 70,000 Naira minimum wage. We'll be back. Welcome back to education now. Stakeholders in the education sector in the Abia State are concerned about the recent statements credited to the Minister of Education, Tahir Mamman, marking or making it mandatory for secondary school students to attain 18 years before they can sit for the West African Examination Council and National Examination Council. Although the implementation is scheduled to begin by next year, parents and educationalists in Umuahia, Abia State, southeast Nigeria, have weighed in on this. News Central's Chinwe Ugele reports.
Available records show that children begin primary education at age 5 or 6, but do not all complete the 6-year primary education either due to the child's intellectual ability or the wish of the parents. The speed at which most children these days complete their basic education in Nigeria has now become an issue for the government. The Minister of Education, Tahir Mamman, has said that government will in 2025 begin the implementation of an old policy. In a recent interview, the minister said, "So we are not coming up with new policy contrary to what people are saying. We are simply just reminding people of what is existing."
We are in a computer world now. And modern world. You can't stop somebody who is very intelligent, from going forward.
Because it is going to be devastating indeed. A child who had read up to that level, then you stop that child because he or she is not up to 18.
The minister further said, if somebody has not spent the requisite number of years in that particular level of study, WAEC and NECO will not allow them write the examination. The minister did not, however, address the gifted children's fate in the implementation of this policy.
What about, is it all about academics? Because we center on certificates.
Some educationists have, however, thrown their weight behind the minister.
Let's allow the children to mature so that they can take informed decision on what they want.
They, however, accused the government of policy somersaults over time.
Nigeria is confused. We just copy other countries' curriculum without, looking inward to our own, the way our country is, and then find a curriculum that is suitable for our country.
Some argue that age has absolutely nothing to do with the mess in the education sector.
The issue is the proper address of the state of education in Nigeria, so that a common man can achieve education, can achieve learning.
As for the students, it is a lot of time to be in school.
Forget about it, because if they should leave us to that 18 distance, right? Where some people will go into things like prostitution, all those kind of things, and they will not have time again to read. So, like, it's really discouraging, and most of them, it really affects our youth.
One therefore wonders how the government will implement this policy from next year, when majority of the students who will be in the examination class to write WAEC and NECO the same year are between 14 and 15 years old. In Umuahia for News Central, Chinwe Ugele.
Now, to discuss this, we are joined by a legal practitioner and public affairs analyst, Towo Oserujabo. Now, he joins us from the United Kingdom. You are welcome. Thank you very much for joining us, Towo. Good to have you here.
You are welcome, Mazino, and thank you. Good afternoon.
You're welcome. Now, let's ask, what do you think the enforcement of the 18-year age limit for secondary school leaving examinations, how would it impact the education system and also students in Nigeria?
Well, if you look at it carefully, most times some of us who are, let's just say, some of us who are here in the UK and the US and in Canada, when we have meetings and we discuss, we say sometimes if they want to implement things that works here in Nigeria, the masses who are to benefit will become the catalyst to the implementation of those things. A good example is the fact that if you look at Section 18 of our Constitution, it is a responsibility of government to structure its educational policy in line with what is attainable in the society. Now, this policy is not a new policy. It has been the policy as it was before and now. And which is the policy? Every country has its educational policy. Even here in the UK, we have the educational policy, and irrespective of whatever you are or whatever talent you are, you must submit to that policy. But there are exceptional circumstances which I can hear some of the stakeholders canvass for. But those exceptional circumstances, Nigeria has not developed the system to enable students in that exceptional circumstances to attain that exception. So it's not just because the child is intelligent, no. So back to it now, is that the system is overshot. And if the process is not monitored or if it's not controlled, you discover that we'll still be having the dilapidated educational structure. You go to the universities, particularly the public universities that are easily accessible by the masses, you see students sitting outside. Why? It's not because of the structure is not there, but because of the system is overshot and the policies that are meant to accommodate such a system are not followed. That is the process. A good example, I'll give you a good example. Here in the UK, for a child to gain admission into a school that is monitored, a proper school, the child must be 3 years, which is called the preparatory. Then from the preparatory, irrespective of the age of that child, once the child is 4 or 5, there must be a timeline in the month. It's so important. They don't play with it. There must be a timeline in the month. I have my daughter. My daughter was 3 years, who was supposed to enter into the kindergarten through preparatory, just because in September, she will be 3 years old, and the school starts September 1st. They said since she was not 3 years old September 1st, she must wait till the next year for him to be in that process. That is how strictly it could be. And if you look at it properly, the process is not choked, and everything follows seamlessly. So that is the process we have here in the UK. So I think Nigeria should also embrace this policy if we decide to what? Because it's not a new policy. It's not a new policy. It's when the private sector entered into the university, entered into the educational sector, that this policy were rubbished. So I think it's a good thing. And I think it's going to not only, it's going to shape in so many things in the educational sector, or in the educational sector and in the society, the infrastructure at large.
Yeah, well, I heard you then talk about exceptional cases. Now, has any input been put regarding kids who are exceptionally intelligently? Now, what about these? I mean, we've heard of stories of kids who are graduating university outside the country and are facilitated to do so at ages perhaps maybe somewhere in between 10 or even 14.
11, yes.
So in this case, how would that accommodate?
Yes, in United States, for example, because I had a chat with a friend of mine who lives in United States, and there are sectors, because there are policies put in place to determine the exceptional circumstances. Not just that, okay, the child is intelligent, no. What are those other things? There are sectors. In short, there is a department under the educational sector in United States, also here in the UK, that looks into their criteria. Their criteria. A child may be intelligent, good, but that child is not exposed, neither smart. Let me use that word. A child will be intelligent, but is not educated. So there are some circumstances they will put in place. There are some major tests the child needs to undergo. And if those child fulfill that test, do you understand? It is the state, not even the parents. The parents will make recommendation. The child go through the process, and the state will come to the conclusion that, well, this child is an exceptional child. Is an exceptional child to the circumstances of the educational policy. But Nigerians, we don't have that. You could see that most times the parents are the one pumping it, the system, the school are the one just trying to say, okay, well, this is our target and all those stuff. So there are certain things we need to do. But another thing again we need to also look at in this policy is the fact that if you look at the lacuna in the educational sector, like strike, we'll talk about strike now, because if we go by that, the government should ensure that there is no interruption in the course of the educational sector. That is what is attainable in the advanced country, the country we refer to. So in such circumstances, under the Ministry of Education, there must be a department which looks into the child who are exceptional, who can be excluded from that system. And if you look at it carefully, those child will undergo rigorous processes that will be itemized in this thing. And it's something that is not because I could hear that, okay, well, it's for only public schools. No, it's across board, even in both private and public missionary schools we have even here in the UK, in the US, and in Nigeria. Those things are applicable in all areas. So it's something that expert parents should accommodate. And I think those thing is not an issue of subjectivity, but objectivity.
So my final question is one directed directly to you. Now, do you believe that raising this age limit for taking these exams will improve the overall quality of education in Nigeria, or could it even have unintended consequences?
Well, like I told you, a policy is one thing, then the mindset of the people is another thing. I believe for sure that because I'll give a good example. If you put a child that is 20 years of age and a child of 15 years of age, both of them are in the university. If you bring them before a table and have a chat with them on issues of life, you appreciate the difference. You really appreciate the difference. It's not about rushing them. If a policy is a policy which is in line with the Constitution, and if the government decides to hold on to it, I think it's going to be marvelous for such thing to be upheld. It's going to improve the educational sector drastically, and it's also going to reduce the overstretch of facility. Like, I'll tell you for free, people don't understand this. When you break such policies, it's like jumping the queue. And when you jump the queue, at the end of it, it puts stress on the facility made available for people who decide to stick by the rules of the game. So it's going to improve the educational sector because everybody will appreciate the ITEs, ISEs, and everything, and how it's presented and how it's pronounced.
Well, Towo, if you say so, we'll wait and see. Thank you very much for joining us on the news today. Appreciate it.
You're welcome, Mazino.
You're welcome. Now, Taraba State Governor Ebu Kefas has announced that his government is working on the implementation of the new national minimum wage. Speaking to journalists after signing the state supplementary budget on Friday, Governor Kefas stated that the heads of service and his committee are already preparing a new wage bill, a new wage table for workers in the state. According to the governor, it is not an issue, adding that he has made it clear that once the federal government approves it, the state will implement it. Governor Kefas expressed gratitude to the Taraba State House of Assembly for their swift passage of the supplementary budget, commending their understanding, support, and proactive approach. He assured that his administration is committed to providing the best leadership for the people of Taraba State. Nigeria's federal government has launched its National Environmental Battery Control Regulations 2024 aimed at tackling the challenges associated with battery waste management in the country. This was during an event organized by the National Environmental Standards and Regulations Enforcement Agency with support from the Nigerian Energy Support Program and some international partners. Nigeria's Minister of Environment says that the guidelines will have far-reaching impact in the country, help safeguard environment, and contribute towards achieving the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal.
It's an industrial process that starts from the collection, transportation, recovery of precious metals back into the manufacturing process of the Nigerian industrial sector, which in this case is the battery sector.
We also have sections that deal with what we are supposed to do. And then those industries and other users, entities, individual and entities that use battery, what you are also expected to do, particularly in terms of the new, used and end-of-life batteries. And of course, we also have sections that deal with penalties that will be meted out to people who offend in the case of in the context of the provisions.
We intend to have a project, a pilot project, to see how feasible it will be to have like a battery recycling facility, so that we will see if it's workable, then we'll now replicate in other states. Because when you look at it, if it's a success story, this is a waste to wealth initiative, which means all these our teeming youths that will graduate and not have jobs, this is a very good opportunity for them to also key in to this project.
The National Primary Health Care Development Agency has announced that the vaccination for Mpox in Nigeria is set to begin on October 8, 2024. Head of Public Relations at the NPHCDA, Remi Adeleke, confirmed the timeline exclusively to our correspondent on Friday. Adeleke noted that vaccine deployment will commence from October 3rd to 6th, aligning with the regulatory procedures required by the NAFDAC, which began on August 27th. With only 9,980 doses of the Genius Mpox vaccine available, the distribution will be spread evenly across 5 states, which each state receiving 1,996 doses. The selected states are being evaluated in collaboration with the Nigeria Center for Disease Control and Prevention based on current trends in Mpox cases. Adeleke outlined that the target population includes close contacts of Mpox cases, healthcare workers, and individuals with low immune status. And staying with health issues, residents of the Kapam community in Chikun local government area of Kaduna State have staged a protest against the alleged environmental pollution of their farms and communities by the Kaduna Refinery and Petrochemical Company. The protesters, mostly women, said that the chemical released by the Kaduna Refinery 3 days ago has devastated their farms, causing the death of their animals, and also affected the health of the residents, mainly children and women. Carrying placards with various inscriptions, the protesters blocked the main gate of the Kaduna Refinery, thereby preventing the staff of the company from accessing their offices. And a resurgence of deadly diphtheria disease has killed 10 persons and hundreds of suspected cases admitted in Kano. Consequently, the Kano state government has activated special treatment centers across all the secondary and primary healthcare facilities to curtail the spread of the airborne disease in the state. Commissioner for Health, Dr. Abubakar Labaran Yusuf, confirmed the resurgence and present mortality rates on Friday. He, however, refuted the escalating figures already in the public domain. Kano became the epicenter of the dangerous disease since the outbreak hit the country again in November 2022, accounting for about 80% of the prevalence and mortality. Now to politics. The Edo State chapter of the People's Democratic Party has accused the State All Progressive Congress of planning to rig the upcoming governorship poll using fake INEC staff. The state chairman, while speaking to newsmen in Benin City, says that plans have been perfected to tamper with the number of registered voters in the bimodal voters registration system used for the polls, and warned the electoral body to be vigilant of the alleged plot by the APC. He also urged the electoral body to punish the details of its staff already selected to conduct or rather to publish the details of its staff already selected to conduct the elections so as to defeat the alleged plans by the APC.
Unit has uncovered a sinister plan of the APC, trying to recruit young Nigerians as fake INEC staff, as technical support staff on the day of election. What is the plan? The plan is to equip these people with a chip, which they will be going around the polling units and tampering with the beavers just to add to the accredited number of voters in those polling units. You can imagine a political party, instead of uploading your polling agents properly, you cannot. You are thinking of how to rig elections. So we are drawing the attention of INEC to this fact, that the ractechs that will be appointed by INEC, they must publish those names and their pictures and their postings.
Coming up, coup attempt trial as 9 accused in DR Congo attempt coup plead not guilty. We'll bring you the details after the break. Welcome back. In Central Africa, 9 defendants on trial in Democratic Republic of Congo over what the army says was a coup attempt on Friday pleaded not guilty. 51 people, including 3 U.S. citizens, are on trial over the incident, which began in the early hours of May 19th, when armed men attacked the home of the DRC's Economic Minister Vital Kamerhe. The group then went to a building housing President Felix Tshisekedi, his office, brandishing flags of Zaire, the country's name under ex-dictator Mobutu Sese Seko, who was overthrown in 1997. Shots were heard near the building, several sources said at the time. An army spokesman later announced on national TV that defense and security forces had stopped an attempted coup d'etat. The alleged plot was led by Christian Malanga, a Congolese man who was a neutralized American and who was killed by security forces, Army spokesman General Sylvain Ekenge has said.
Nous découvrons que la Constitution en 2006 a déjà dit qu'on ne peut en aucun cas, c'est-à-dire même quand il y a coup d'État, on ne peut plus tuer l'auteur. Et ça, c'est la loi, la loi des lois qui le dit à son article 61, premier point.
We move to the east of the continent, where a major power outage hit Kenya on Friday, plunging large parts of the country into darkness, including Nairobi. The Kenya Power and Lighting Company, KPLC, reported that all regions served by the national grid lost power except North Rift and parts of the western region. KPLC apologized for the inconvenience and assured customers they are working to restore power as quickly as possible. The blackout occurred around 9:30 p.m. local time, prompting frustrated Kenyans to voice their anger on social media. The Kenya Airport authorities confirmed that flights at Nairobi's Jomo Kenyatta International Airport were not affected thanks to backup power systems. Kenya has experienced several large-scale power cuts in recent months. And we head to the north of the continent, where the Tunisian rights group announced on Friday that it had found shelter for 28 migrants and asylum seekers abandoned near the Tunisia-Algeria border without water or food. The Tunisian Forum for Social and Economic Rights, FTDES, rights group reported that the group included 7 women, 3 of whom were pregnant, and 2 children. They were among 42 people left stranded in the desert border region. FTDES spokesman Rodin Benamour stated that the remaining migrants were likely hiding, fearing the police. The group was reportedly expelled from the coastal city of Sifax and taken to Gafsa near the Algerian border. Benamour said the 28 were found with the help of a local authority and transferred to a shelter run by the International Organization for Migration. And staying in the region, an Egyptian worker was killed and 3 Arab Israeli tourists were injured during an altercation at a hotel in Taba, Egypt on Friday. A medical source said the worker died while being transported to Sharm el-Sheikh, about 200 kilometers away. According to local media, 3 other workers were also wounded, along with the 3 tourists known as Arab, who's 48, referring to Palestinians, and their defendants who remained in Israel after 1948. The altercation reportedly began when the tourist attempted to obtain service without payment. Security authorities are investigating the incident. Officials have denied Israeli media reports that describe the incident as a stabbing operation. Taba, a popular destination for Israeli tourists, is located on the Egypt-Israel border. And French President Emmanuel Macron is urging Europe to intensify its effort in the field of artificial intelligence, warning that the continent is falling behind China and the US in AI investment. Macron made the remarks during a visit to Serbia, where he highlighted the importance of Europe developing its own AI model. Macron's call for a European AI model comes as the global race for AI dominance intensifies. With China and the US already making significant strides in the sector, Macron warns that Europe cannot afford to be left behind.
On a beaucoup d'opportunités et évidemment l'intelligence artificielle est en train de transformer, révolutionner beaucoup de choses. Mais nous, Européens, nous sommes un peu distancés. Il faut être lucide. Les Chinois et les Américains investissent beaucoup plus. Et je pense que nous, Européens, avons un rôle particulier à jouer. Parce que nous avons les capacités, la possibilité de faire et d'inventer notre modèle. Le modèle chinois de l'intelligence artificielle est totalement maîtrisé par le gouvernement, avec en quelque sorte des règles, des standards qui sont définis au sein d'un gouvernement central. Quand je dis ça, j'essaie de décrire, je ne juge pas. Le modèle américain est poussé, développé par l'innovation totalement privée, avec des choix qui sont faits, et on le voit d'ailleurs sur beaucoup de sujets, par les entreprises, oserais-je même dire par des entrepreneurs eux-mêmes. Et ce qu'on voit sur les plateformes va ensuite dériver sur l'intelligence artificielle, c'est-à-dire que le choix de quelques-uns peut structurer les choix collectifs. Nous croyons dans l'intelligence artificielle, mais nous pensons qu'il faut pour cela, en effet, que la discussion soit basée sur la science, qu'on définisse ensemble des standards.
France is racing to contain the spread of diseases affecting sheep, ewes, and cattle. The government has ordered several million additional vaccines, which will be made available to farmers free of charge. This action comes in response to a sharp rise in blue tongue stereotype 3 outbreaks, which have nearly doubled in just a week, with 342 confirmed cases. The vaccines will be distributed across 70% of the country's departments, including the Rhône-Alpes and Pays de la Loire regions. The government will also order 2 million doses of a vaccine against epizootic hemorrhagic disease. The Ministry of Agriculture is urging breeders to test their animals, with the government covering the cost of both the tests and veterinary visits.
Dispositif vaccinal gratuit, élargissement de la zone pour courir devant la maladie, pour essayer de l'endiguer et de l'enrayer. Prise au travail pour regarder les pertes économiques et comment elles pourraient être prises en charge. J'en discuterai aussi, puisque j'aurai sans doute l'occasion de les voir avec un certain nombre de collègues européens, pour regarder quels sont les problèmes que ça pose au niveau européen. Et j'invite collectivement à ce qu'on ait une réflexion qu'on a lancée au ministère, mais sur laquelle il faut accélérer. On aura de plus en plus d'épisodes comme ça de maladies liées au dérèglement climatique. Il faut qu'on repense quand même, c'est le travail que j'ai lancé, dont je dis qu'il est vital pour l'agriculture, de qu'est-ce que c'est le sanitaire, qu'est-ce qui finance quoi et qu'est-ce qu'on fait, quelles sont les stratégies. Et la vaccination, c'est un veto qui disait ça tout à l'heure, c'est quand même la stratégie de base, parce qu'un animal qu'on ne vaccine pas, qui tombe malade, c'est de la perte.
August saw a 0.8% decline in the value of Nigeria's equity market, costing investors approximately 33 billion naira's profit-taking sessions on the Lagos Bureau's exceeding bargain hunting session. Sorry, that's bargain hunting session. My apologies. But to bring us a report on that, Leka Onabanjo has more details here.
Nigerians' equities markets decreased by 0.80% in the month of August, while investors lost about 33 billion naira as sessions of profit taken on the Lagos bourse outweighed that of bargains. The market's negative record in the review month was driven by investors who sold mostly industrial stocks, despite bargain in oil and gas, insurance, consumer goods, and banking stocks. In the review month, NGX Banking Index rose by 6.52% in August. NGX Consumer Goods Index rose by 4.88%. NGX Industrial Index declined by 13.08%. NGX Insurance rose by 11.67%. NGX Oil and Gas Index rose by 22.45%. The market's positive return as at August 30 stood at 29.16%. The management of the geometric power plant has expressed concern over the severe shortage of natural gas supply to its 188 megawatt plants located in the Osisioma Industrial Estate, Aba, in Abia State. In a statement on Friday, Managing Director Ugo Okpebe highlighted that the gas supply issue is hindering the plant's ability to contribute to the state's economic growth. Okpebe noted that the Aba ring fence requires approximately 90 megawatts, which could be generated from two of the plant's 3 turbines, each with a 47 megawatt capacity. Despite the plant's potential to produce 141 megawatts and provide uninterrupted electricity to 9 of Aba State's 17 local government areas, the gas shortage has forced the company to import electricity to meet demand. Transnet, South Africa's state-owned freight transport company, has secured a 5 billion rand loan from the New Development Bank, commonly known as the BRICS Bank. The loan agreement was signed during the NDB's 9th annual meeting in Cape Town on Friday. The funds are earmarked for enhancing the efficiency and capacity of South Africa's freight rail systems, which have seen a sharp decline in volumes over the past 5 years. The modernization program supported by the loan includes the renewal of rail network infrastructure, overhauls of locomotives, and the renewal of wagon fleet. Transnet aims to improve operational performance and reliability through these initiatives, addressing the challenges facing the country's freight rail sector. And that's all on business news. I am Lekon Onobanjo.
And that's all at this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of the stories that we brought your way. Troops of the Nigerian Army eliminate 9 terrorists, seize weapons in Kaduna. As Mpox cases rise, Nigerian government to begin vaccination on October 8th. 9 accused persons in DR Congo's attempted coup plead not guilty. Remember to send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on your screen now. And do follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and of course YouTube. Many thanks for watching. My name is Mazino Appeal.